The Chevy SS, a household name that brings back memories of high performance muscle from a bygone era. The Supersport badge was the definition of raw power, bold styling, and speed. Today, we're going to look at some of Chevrolet's legendary SS models. It will be up to you to decide which reigns supreme. The Chevelle SS made its debut in 1964 as Chevrolet's answer to the budding muscle car market, and oddly enough to Pontiac, who had found great success in their first year offering the GTO package for the Le Mans. Initially, the SS package was a mere appearance upgrade for the Chevelle's Malibu trim level, and thus created the top-tier Malibu Supersport trim. The package featured unique SS badging, special wheel covers, foam-cushioned front bucket seats with leather-grain vinyl, and upgraded instrumentation. Even more interesting was the SS package could be fitted with any engine and transmission combination on the Malibu. This meant that there were many six-cylinder Malibu SS models driven off dealer lots in 1964. However, Chevy also realized that there were buyers who would want performance to go along with the looks, and for those customers, a souped-up version of the 327 TurboFire V8 was offered later in the model year. Complete with a large Rochester 4-barrel carburetor, hydraulic lifters, and a 10.5 to 1 compression ratio, the tweaked 327 produced 300 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque. This first stab at a production performance car was an instant hit. Chevy shifted close to 300,000 Chevelles in its first year, with more than 75,000 of those being Supersport optioned. Chevrolet's engineers went into full design mode, as now all could see the potential for the Chevelle SS to become a high-performance icon. 1965 offered little in the form of changes to the Chevelle. After all, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and Chevy was understandably reluctant to mess with success. However, offered late in the 1965 model year, an unpublicized Z16 package was offered, and that would change the Chevelle lineup for good. Internal memos were relayed to dealers only, who would be responsible for steering likely buyers toward the special package. It was also announced internally that there would only be 200 coupe models produced with the Z16. This package introduced the L37 V8 to the Chevelle, a 396 cubic inch big block, which produced 375 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque. The engine featured hydraulic lifters, forged pistons, a forged crankshaft, ported closed-chamber cylinder heads, a dual snorkel air cleaner, an aluminum intake, and a Holley 3310 4-barrel carburetor. A Muncie M24 speed transmission sent the engine's power to a beefy 12-bolt rear end with a 331 drive ratio. As if that wasn't enough, the Z16 package also included heavy-duty suspension components, such as a front anti-sway bar, a stabilizer bar between the rear lower control arms, and stiffer springs. To get the Chevelle to stop, the Z16 included 11-inch hydraulic power-assisted drum brakes that were borrowed from the bigger Impala. Chevy had pulled out all the stops, and though it initially started as a Z16 packaged Malibu SS, the Chevelle SS 396 was born. From 1966 onward, the SS 396 became its own trim and was the centerpiece of the Chevelle lineup. In 1970, Chevrolet raised the stakes yet again with the introduction of the Chevelle SS 454, and with it, two heavyweight V8s. The LS5 and LS6 were both 454 cubic inch 7.4-liter big blocks. The LS5, with its hydraulic lifters, was rated at 360 horsepower, while the solid lifter LS6 was rated for 450 horsepower and a mind-numbing 500 pound-feet of torque. The LS6 engine was equipped with an aluminum intake manifold bolted to a high-capacity Holley carburetor, and featured a heavy-duty cooling system, reinforced drivetrain components, and optional rear axle ratios as steep as 433, with a limited slip differential. This made the LS6-powered Chevelle one of the most powerful and fastest production cars of its time, dominating both the Streetlight Grand Prix and the drag strip. However, by 1971, the LS6 engine was no longer offered. This was largely due to tightening emissions regulations and rising insurance premiums. The LS5 engine, rated at now 365 horsepower, became the top option for the Chevelle SS 454. Despite these changes, the Chevelle SS remained a popular choice through 1973, offering big block power and aggressive styling. The Chevrolet Camaro was introduced in 1967 as Chevy's entry into the pony car market. General Motors was caught flat-footed when Ford introduced the Mustang in 1964. Their small, compact sports car, the Corvair, was problematic as a Mustang competitor in more ways than one. The decision was made to introduce a new vehicle into the Chevrolet lineup to compete head-to-head with the offering out of Dearborn. That car was the Camaro. Unlike the Chevelle, which had its roots in an everyday midsize sedan, a true performance-oriented supersport package was available with the Camaro on day one, and included the availability of a 350 cubic inch 5.7-liter small block V8, which delivered 295 horsepower. For buyers seeking even more power, Chevrolet offered the 396 cubic inch big block in 325, 350, and 375 horsepower variants. These engines were paired with the heavy-duty Muncie 4-speed manual or the turbo-hydromatic transmissions. SS option Camaros also featured dual exhaust systems, beefed-up suspension components, and optional Positraction rear differentials. The first-generation Camaro was tough to beat in the styling department as well. Apart from the Supersport package, the other main option package for the Camaro was the Rally Sport package. The RS package featured hideaway headlights, which blended into a special full-width grille, inconspicuous parking, signal, and reverse lights, lower body side moldings, wheel opening moldings, and special Rally Sport badging. However, the best part was that the Supersport package and the Rally Sport package could be combined, creating a Camaro RS SS. Combining the packages resulted in what some would argue was the best of both worlds for Camaro styling. In addition to the desirable Rally Sport features, such as the hideaway headlights, full-width grille, and moldings, the SS front accent band, special hood with raised simulated intakes, and SS badging were also included when an RS SS Camaro was spec'd. A functional cowl induction hood, dubbed the Super Scoop, was also made available in late 1968 and was officially advertised for the 1969 model year. Updated striping for both the RS and SS packages was also available in 1969. The Camaro RS SS certainly looked the part, and when equipped with the 396 turbojet V8 and its 375 horsepower L78 configuration that featured high-flow cylinder heads, a solid lifter camshaft, and forged pistons, it was one of the best-looking and most potent small pony cars of the era. Add the optional power steering, four-wheel disc brakes, and the available Muncie M22 Rock Crusher 4-speed, and you had one heck of a street racer. The second-generation Camaro arrived in 1970 and featured a more aerodynamic design and improved chassis dynamics. The SS package continued to include the 350 and 396 engines, though the latter was now a 402 cubic inch engine due to a slight increase in bore size. Despite the enlargement in displacement, Chevrolet continued to call it the 396, most likely due to recognition. This updated engine was available in multiple configurations, up to 375 horsepower, and it was paired with the F41 suspension, which added thicker sway bars and stiffer springs for better handling. Buyers could also opt for performance-oriented rear axle ratios, all the way up to a steep 488 ratio. By 1972, which was the last year for the SS 350 and 396 models, the Camaro faced significant challenges due to the aforementioned rising insurance costs and emissions regulations imposed by the government. Less than 1,000 SS 396 models were produced in 1972, and it would become the last year the Camaro was offered with a big block from the factory, marking the end of an era for the Camaro SS as a high-performance machine. The origin story of the Nova SS is going to sound a bit familiar, so bear with me. Like the Chevelle, the Nova began its life as a trim package for the compact Chevy II that debuted in 1962. The Nova Supersport version was offered for 1963 and included features such as front bucket seats, all-vinyl trim, functional instrumentation, and SS badging. However, just as the case with the Chevelle, Chevrolet soon realized that folks were craving hot versions of everyday cars, and by 1964, the Chevy II offered stylish practicality with new V8 Go. Two flavors of the TurboFire 283 V8 were offered, a 195 horsepower version and 220 horsepower version. However, the SS package was still an appearance package only and did not include any mechanical upgrades. In fact, all Chevy II models could opt for V8 power, and all still shared the same smooth footwork suspension. In 1965, the Nova was offered with a 327 cubic inch small block V8, which could be ordered with 250 or 300 horsepower. This engine featured overhead valves, hydraulic lifters, wedge-type combustion chambers, a 4-barrel carb, and a 10.5 to 1 compression ratio. Dual exhaust was also offered with the 327 V8. In 1968, the Chevy II Nova underwent a complete redesign, and the SS package became more focused on performance. The 68 Nova SS came standard with a 295 horsepower 350 cubic inch V8, and while buyers could upgrade to the 396 cubic inch big block engine at that time, the option was not well known, even being omitted from sales brochures early that year. This meant that the Nova was the ultimate sleeper. The top-performing 375 horsepower version of the 396 featured high-flow cylinder heads, a solid lifter camshaft, and a high-capacity Holley carburetor. Paired with a heavy-duty Muncie M22 4-speed manual transmission and a 12-bolt rear axle, the 396-powered Nova SS was a deadly street racer, especially considering it was one of the smallest and lightest muscle cars ever to come out of Detroit. The years 1969 and 1970 saw more but subtle changes to the Nova. The Chevy II was dropped from the nameplate, thus leaving just Chevy Nova in its place. The SS 396, actually a 402 cubic inch engine for 1970, the same as in the Camaro, would be discontinued for 1971. Heavy-duty suspension components, an optional 12-bolt positraction rear axle, available front disc brakes, power steering, and axle ratios up to 488 made the Nova SS the car to own in the compact muscle segment. From 71 to 76, the Nova SS suffered the same fate as the rest of the market, as power outputs declined. Despite this, the Nova SS remained a popular choice for budget-conscious people, offering a balance of power, size, and affordability. Though the Chevelle, Camaro, and Nova may have been some of the most recognizable SS optioned models, Chevy also optioned other vehicles with the Supersport package. The Monte Carlo, El Camino, and Impala are a few other examples. The Monte Carlo SS was introduced in 1970 as Chevrolet's attempt to combine luxury with performance. The SS 454 package featured an LS5 454 cubic inch turbojet V8 that delivered 360 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. This engine, which was exclusive to SS packaged Monte Carlos, included a 4-barrel carburetor, hydraulic lifters, and a dual exhaust system. The Monte Carlo SS also featured heavy-duty suspension components like front and rear anti-sway bars, automatic level control with plate-protected air shocks, power front disc brakes, and a turbo Hydra-Matic 400 transmission. On the exterior, it was difficult to tell a Monte Carlo was an SS 454 model in 1970. The only giveaway was the SS 454 emblems on both lower fenders. For 1971, the By Chevrolet on the trunk was replaced with SS, giving a bit more evidence of the beast under the hood for a passerby. 15-inch rally wheels were optional in 1970 and became standard in 1971. The Monte Carlo was a personal luxury model for Chevrolet, and thus the interior emphasized comfort, offering plush seating, wood grain trim, and convenience features such as air conditioning and power windows. There were no interior SS badges offered, and thus nothing inside to mark the car as being an SS model. Produced only in 1970 and 71, the Monte Carlo SS remains a rare and desirable model. The El Camino Supersport wasn't a factory option until 1968, but the truck-car crossover received a 396 V8 in models prior. Apart from the party at the back, the El Camino SS 396 shared the vast majority of its parts from the windshield forward with the Chevelle. Just like the Chevelle, it received both the LS5 and LS6 versions of the 454 Big Block in 1970, with the LS6 being discontinued for 1971. Nonetheless, the El Camino SS deserves to be mentioned as it was one of Chevrolet's most unique muscle offerings with its crossover body style. First introduced in 1961, the Impala Supersport was Chevrolet's original SS packaged car. It featured performance upgrades such as heavy duty front and rear coil springs, shock absorbers, power steering, power brakes, spinner wheel covers, a Corvette style passenger handbar, and a 7,000 RPM tachometer mounted on the steering column. The third generation Impala was marketed as a highly personalized vehicle that blended full size, top of the line luxury with a peak performance power team and true sports car equipment. It quickly became known for its performance, with engine versions producing upwards of 400 horsepower. The Beach Boys even produced a hit single in 1962 called 409, which was a reference to the 409 cubic inch big block V8 available in the Chevy Impala. It was one of the first vehicles to showcase Chevrolet's commitment to high performance engineering. By 1965, the Impala was redesigned, and the Supersport was available with a range of engines, including the 396 cubic inch turbojet V8 that provided an advertised 425 horsepower. However, it was the turbojet 427 V8, released in 1966, that would become synonymous with the Impala. The engine produced either 390 horsepower or 425 horsepower with either hydraulic lifters or solid lifters respectively. The SS equipped 427 came with all of the standard Supersport features like bucket seats, heavy-duty suspension, SS badging, and a center console with special gauges. In 1967, the Impala was marketed as the Chevrolet SS 427. It introduced updated styling, including a fastback roofline, with a revised front and rear end styling. According to some sources, the high output 425 horsepower solid lifter version of the 427 wasn't available in 1967, but made its return to the lineup in 1968 and remained for the final year of the Impala SS, 1969. If anyone is aware of a 425 horsepower SS 427 being produced in 1967, please let me know in the comments below. Regardless, it's no doubt that the Impala SS was one of the most attractive looking and iconic supersport cars of the era, and will always be a staple of the classic Chevy SS lineup. Thanks for taking this journey with me back through the classic Chevy Supersport lineup. Of course, this video just scratched the surface of these legendary machines. There are always stories of specially produced models, custom variants, and the like. If you've got a story about your SS car, let me know in the comments below. As for our question, which Supersport reigns supreme? Well, let's just let the debate rage on. It's more fun that way. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching.